We should like to see 1,000 Swiss come into Oregon in the next 5 years. They would find a new Switzerland in the West, and their influence would soon be felt in our midst. Morning Oregonian, October 21st, 1884. First light in Tillamook, Oregon. While much of the world sleeps, some here are well into their day.
People will tell you that dairy farmers are kind of a different breed. It's 24/7. It's 365 days a year. There's no time off for Christmas or Thanksgiving or any of that. It's just a matter of just, this is what it takes to be a dairy farmer, to keep it going every day, and you don't really think about it. It's just sort of part of the job.
I am up and at the farm by 3 a.m. I get my first cup of coffee at 2:40 in the morning, and then I'm out the door. You have to be willing to put in long hours, not have set hours, because you're always on call, and you basically have to know how to work on no sleep sometimes, and it can be challenging.
For many families here, this way of life stretches back generations.
Hi, ladies. My great-grandpa Alfred, with 5 of his family members, migrated to Tillamook in 1912. There was already a Swiss community here, and so they came over as indentured servants, so somebody here helped pay their way. And they came to a community that held their traditions, bought the original 60-acre homestead in 1917. And they were milking roughly 60 cows, which was a lot of cows back in the day. It's changed a lot since then. We're now milking 500 and something cows on 400 acres, so we've grown a little bit.
Starting in the mid-1800s, as waves of settlers headed west in search of a new life, some found their way to the lush Oregon coast.
There were 81 Swiss-born immigrants here in 1900, according to our census records. We got a much larger spike in the population, though, early in the 20th century. That's when the bulk of our Swiss families that we know and are still members of our community today, that was really when dairy farming started taking off.
Our family history, in terms of our Swiss heritage, goes back to actually a 2-step move, originally to South America and then to here in Oregon.
Somebody sent word back that this looked a little bit like Switzerland, in the mountains and the valleys and all. And so somehow or other they had to sponsor somebody to come over and have a place for them to be. Well, like Granddad was working on a dairy, he found an opportunity to work over here. Granddad had 30 acres, and then Dad bought this 30 acres.
I had asked my granddad why they left Switzerland. And he said, well, there was 2 reasons. Part of it was the rumblings of World War I, and they just wanted to get out of it. They didn't know, what was going to happen. And the other part, my great-granddad and some of my great-uncles had came over here hearing of the land and the opportunity. There was no more land left over there. They still could not just go out and buy some ground. But there was quite an influx of them in the mid-teens, early 20s.
They found a mild climate, abundant rainfall, rivers, mountains, and valleys. For those who had made the journey from Switzerland, it was the perfect place for something they knew well: dairy farming.
Most of the Swiss, yes, it was farming. And a few others knew that there was a Swiss community developing over here, and they may have followed and went into some other trades, but yes, farming was basically what brought them here.
And that cheese would one day become world famous.
My granddad worked for the railroad in Switzerland. Well, I think they came in about 1918, and then they landed first winter in Minnesota. They damn near froze to death there. They had some friends up in Nehalem here, and told them that come over here, it's green here all the time. When Dad got married in 1936, we've been going ever since.
By 1920, 2 years before the Swiss Society was formed, it made up 1/4 of all of our immigrant population, was Swiss immigrants, Swiss families, and they probably made up somewhere between 5 and 10% of all of the Tillamook population.
By the 1920s, so many Swiss families had settled in the area that they wanted to find a way to celebrate their heritage. So the Tillamook Swiss Society was formed in 1922.
Well, they met different places downtown, and eventually this hall came up, and it was the Isaac Walton Hall anyhow. Then they bought it. We've added on a bit, but this has kind of been home to the Swiss for quite a few years. 100 to be exact.
They had to do a lot of back-breaking work, but they were just a hardy people back then. It's really neat to be able to say that my family has farmed continuously for the last 100 years on the same acreage.
Today, that way of life continues, with a few modern updates.
We've been here now at this farm I'm the 4th generation here. One of the things that really makes being here a real blessing is the fact that I get to enjoy the work of generations before me. And when I think about what that work looks like in terms of hand labor and back-breaking hard work, I've got it pretty good. And so when you look 3 generations back and what they were doing and what we get to do now, and a lot of what I do today is to honor those generations that went before me.
1951, Bruce's dad and Mom wanted to sell a farm. I was driving truck for the creamery, and I was hauling milk to Portland 2 trips a day. I wanted to do something else, but I didn't like hauling milk, going over to Portland twice a day. So had this chance to buy this farm, 32 acres, and so we bought it. I drove trucking for another 12 years, helped pay for it. Had 20-some cows. Then we ended up with around 250 cows at one time. Everything, it was a struggle till in the 70s. It was a struggle, but it was a good life.
The work can be exhausting.
The Swiss are basically hard workers. Nobody works as hard as Walt Beeler for as long as Walt Beeler has. He's 85. And he's still the first one to the barn in the mornings.
But Tillamook residents know how to have a good time too. That's especially clear during the annual Tillamook County Fair, where you'll find Swiss families right in the middle of the fun.
There's kind of a bond, and everybody I know are proud of their Swiss heritage. It's kind of like family.
It's just a good way to live. And it's a great way for kids to grow up.
Hard work, family heritage, and community spirit, all on display as the Tillamook Swiss Society celebrates 100 years.